This is Photoshop Project 6. We are still on stage 1. This time we're working with the balloon JPEG, and we're going to use the embedded profile again. For this project, we're going to be taking the yellow out of the balloon. We're working with the adjustments panel. We're going to work in hue and saturation, so just click the Hue Saturation button to create an adjustment layer. You can read about the adjustment layers in your book on page 331. In the Properties panel for that layer, we are going to choose to edit the yellows. We're going to drag the slider for lightness all the way over to the white, which is going to basically bleach that yellow completely out. Now click on the Adjustment Layers Layer Mask to select it. We have just taken out all the color from the balloon, but we've also taken it out from the basket, and we are going to need to put that back in. Pick up a brush from your Tools panel. In the settings for the brush, define approximately a 70 pixel brush. We want 100% hardness on it, and then remember that painting with white reveals and black conceals, so we're going to want to use the black to paint in the layer mask, which is going to reveal any of the yellow, which is also on the gentleman's shirt, and it color corrects their faces, and it color corrects anything within that basket. If you get too much of the top in here like I did, all I have to do is swap my colors and I can paint that back out again. After completing that, you can save this file out as balloon clean and make sure you're saving the Photoshop file and close that file. Next, we're going to work with the Office JPEG. Again, use the embedded profile. This one, we're going to work with the shadows and highlights. Reduce the shadow amount to approximately 15%, which is going to brighten the image up considerably, and we can darken some of the highlights. But don't make too many changes to the highlights. Then save this file as a native Photoshop file named Office Clean. And close that file. Take some time to read the extended control for shadows, highlights, adjustment on pages 334 and the painting image correction tools on page 335, along with painting image exposure and saturation on 336. We're going to move on to stage 2, working in perspective. This is going to be a compositing job. We're going to have to take the picture of a banner and put it on the front of the studio building. So open up the Studio Clean file, and we're going to place in an embedded file banner. Before you commit to it, make sure that you have the height and width linked and change the height and width to 73% proportionally. And then pick up your move tool and drag this so that it's up to the top of the building. You can use your arrow keys if you'd like to. Then you're going to use your control key and control click the center left transition handle and bring it down so that it aligns up with the side of the building. It's going to skew it, put it on an angle. Now we're going to control click the top left transform handle and bring that straight down. If you need to, you can hold your shift key down. Should keep you in a straight line, and pull it down to distort the perspective of that layer. You want to make sure it lines up evenly across the top of the building. Adjust that corner handle so that it is properly aligned, and you may have to adjust the bottom corner to make it fit a little bit better. Just hold your control key down and drag, because it's going to need to get a little closer in the corner than it was at this side, because remember, as things move away from you, they appear to get smaller and closer together. So we have to make adjustments for that to make it look correct. When you're satisfied with the position, the size, and the perspective, you can then commit the change. We're also going to add a slight drop shadow to this banner. So if you go into Layer, Layer Styles, and select Drop Shadow, just a different way of getting to it. We want to have a blend mode of multiply. The distance should be 10 pixels. The opacity should be 75%. Our angle needs to be changed to 125 degrees. The spread should be 0. And the size should be 5 pixels. If your preview is on, you should be able to see this little bit of a drop shadow coming in. And there is your completed file. Save this as Studio Add. Now let's take a quick look at the size of this file. This is a 14 meg file. So rather than save this file for me for you to turn in, I would like you to go back into Image, back into Image Size, and we're going to change the resolution of this to 100 pixels. It's going to make it a much smaller image. It's also going to take it down to 1.5 megs. But I want to be able to see your layers to make sure that you have completed this the way it needs to be. So I would like you then to go to File and Save As. Leave it as Studio Add Small. And that's the file you're going to need to turn in to me.